Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 397 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host for tonight, Ben, and I'm joined by Charlie all the way from sunny Gibraltar. How you doing, mate? You keeping all right?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Do you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to get bored of seeing that new intro. It's really, really good. It's great. I love just sitting there. I could just sit here and just watch that. I don't even need to talk or do anything. No, it's really good.
No, it was, I'm really pleased with how it all came out. Obviously, credit to Stu for the thumbnails, and then all of everybody for chipping in with the little videos. But no, I'm very proud of that one. Very pleased of how it came out. But how's your week been, mate? Has it been all right apart from the obvious results based moods?
Yeah, it was all right up until yesterday. No, it's been all right. I've had family over this week as well, so I've been out and about a little bit more than usual. So although still working all week, which isn't exactly the most fun, of course. But yes, doing a little bit more in the evenings, going out a little bit more, exploring some new places for food and such as well, which was very nice. Some really good spots actually that I hadn't been to before. So yeah, no, it's been a nice, enjoyable week. What about yourself?
Yeah, just busy, like incredibly busy in the day job. So not had a huge amount of time to think about anything else this week. But I am liking your new surroundings, mate. They do look very nice. Obviously you've upped sticks again. Not too far though. Not quite the same level of.
No, not quite. I moved house a couple of weeks ago. Moved into a new apartment. So yeah, got that all done and settled. So there's not really been that many sort of teething problems either with moving, because that's always what you expect, isn't it? That you'll spend the first couple of weeks. But there was a pretty big one yesterday. So there I am trying to watch the game, and it's about quarter to four over here, obviously, because we're an hour ahead. And I've got me Imps Plus up. And suddenly this alarm starts going off in the apartment. I'm thinking, what on earth? What's going on? So I go into the utility cupboard and it's coming out of there. I'm thinking, is it a smoke alarm, a fire alarm? What is it? And there's like a little handbook for these apartments. So I open that up and apparently it's a water leakage sensor alarm. So I'm like, right, okay. So I come and check everywhere. There's not really a leak. I cleaned up. There was a bit of spilt water. Clean that up. Not a problem. Go to turn the alarm off and the code doesn't work. So there I am for about an hour trying to contact anybody that I can contact to see if there's a different code. It turns out it was a totally different code to what was in the handbook. So I'm trying to watch the game whilst all I've got is this alarm going off in the cupboard. There's that loud. I've got to turn up the commentary as loud as I can. So it was a pretty eventful sort of first 20 minutes of the game. For me, a little bit less so actually down at the stadium, but we'll get onto that.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, it's I'm trying to think of anything else that I can talk about from my last week, but genuinely outside of a trip to Milton Keynes that made my day last 13 hours or so, there isn't a huge amount more that I can really talk about. I don't like Milton Keynes.
Really? Why don't you like Milton Keynes? But it's such a lovely, vibrant place.
And you're a terrible liar. No, it's there's just too many roundabouts. I know it's a real cliche, but like genuinely, it just is.
But it's also a grid city, so tell me how that one works.
Yeah. No, look, it's that's the day job stuff, which we shan't talk about. Instead, we shall get straight into it. Obviously, the big subject of the podcast this weekend is the defeat away at AFC Wimbledon. Now, Chris and I were on the podcast on Wednesday. We talked about the game. We previewed it. Obviously, you had a preview upon at YouTube as well. It was a game that I probably felt quite confident going into. The more I spoke to Chris, the less confident I felt. It was we predicted that it wouldn't be a classic, and I think we were right in that one, weren't we?
Yeah, I was very much along the same kind of lines of thinking there. Honestly, a 0-0 would have been a very fair prediction. I went with a 1-0 Lincoln win to sort of snag it late on. it didn't happen, but obviously we'll get onto that. But no, it was never really going to be a game for the ages, or at least that's what it seemed like. But I wasn't really expecting it to be quite as poor of a start to the game from both sides as what I was expecting. Again, I think it wasn't. You're absolutely right. There was no real entertainment value at the start of the game, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, let's go back to 1:30. By the way, why it seems to be that the lineups now come out at 1:30, don't they? Instead of 2
I think it's 1:45, isn't it? I think it's 75 minutes.
Okay.
It's the new EFL regulations. Why they weren't in? Because were they not in place last week?
Yeah, because it was.
I thought last week was on the hour.
No, because what happened was we got the news about Jovan at the at the same time that the lineups came out, and that was earlier than 2 o'clock.
1:45. Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's new EFL regulations 1:45. I think that's the case for the Premier League as well. So it may be just FIFA regulation. I'm not quite sure. It does throw the match day routine a bit, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously the lineups came out, and completely unchanged side from the Reading game. I don't think there'd be too many surprises off that. Coming out of a 2-0 win, you think, why change a winning side? And I think my confidence was probably there when I saw the lineups. More of the same. We'll be fine. And then the game kicked off. Like I say, it was not a classic by any stretch of the imagination. I just thought it was a real sluggish first sort of 10-15 minutes. The first corner of the game came from what initially to me looked like a handball from the Wimbledon man. Riley Towler going in for it. And it looked like he'd sort of punched it into Towler, who then, obviously went off for a corner. Then there was, I think, two corners in quick succession, wasn't it? They came across. Wickens had to be on his toes. I think he tipped one over the bar in kind of the middle of the goal, and then one that was just towards his near post. But it felt like they were maybe trying to catch us out early doors and nab that early goal, didn't it?
Yeah, it was Miles Hippolyte, I believe it was, that was taking the corners. And on the one hand, you could just say that he took some really poor corners that were too close to the goalkeeper. But it did seem like it was a little more orchestrated in that, and that they were trying to catch Wickens out sort of underneath his bar there. And to be fair, they got close. They got pretty close on both of those occasions. And it was just a bit of an early warning sign that even though we may have gone into that game with a little bit of optimism, we shouldn't underestimate Wimbledon in any way, shape, or form. I think a lot of people do have them predicted to be relegated at the end of the year, including some of their own fans that I've spoken to as well. But there's clearly a threat there, whether that be from set pieces or a little bit from open play, although a little bit less so than from the set pieces. So yeah, there was kind of that immediate threat to hopefully wake us up a bit as well, because that was on the sort of the 10-minute mark, and I think it was also probably a little bit needed.
Yeah, I think after that, after the warning signs came in, I think we maybe steadied the ship a little bit. I've my notes I've got, it was a cagey sort of first 15 minutes. It felt quite scrappy. Both teams were defensively quite strong. Nobody really gave anything up in that first 15 minutes. Our first real effort came, I think it was around 20 minutes from Jack Moylan. Ball comes to him just outside the box, a little bit of trickery, nice bit of footwork, and then puts it quite high, wide and handsome. But I think to me, that showed where I felt we were going, in that obviously the incident is coming up, but we were starting to maybe figure out, if we can get the ball on the floor, if we can figure out how to play around them, we might be able to create something here. And that Moylan effort was the first time I really thought that could happen.
Yeah, it was sort of the sign from us that, okay, you want to try and show us that you're a threat. We'll show you that we can grind out a result today by being able to hopefully get a few of those opportunities And the more of those that you get, sooner or later, you're going to take one. And I think that was kind of our immediate warning sign on that 20-minute mark. Like you say, we'll break through, we'll get an opportunity. So, hopefully kind of from what we wanted to see from them was, okay, the more that you're going to try and come forward to us, the more that we're going to get those. Now get scared because we will put one away. Obviously, didn't happen like that because of the incident that occurred literally 2 minutes later. So all of that optimism was immediately wiped out. But yeah, it was a good little warning sign from us as well to kind of put them back in their place from, I think, a good bit of optimism that they were starting to build from those original kind of corners and the way that kind of lifted their feelings.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll come to it now because it is, in terms of the game story, I guess it was the big chapter. Adam Jackson, the ball comes across. He lifts his foot, does get a toe on the ball, but then ends up with his studs in the chest of Matty Stevens. Stevens goes down, clutching his face. The referee runs over and gives Jacko a red card. Now, there's been some talking points coming from this. We've been discussing this in the Stacey West Discord, and it's been quite a lively discussion in there. I think that there's people that maybe sit on both sides of the fence with this one. Before we get too far into it, Charlie, one word answer: sending off, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I am also in that boat. I think the problem with it is that if you lift your foot above your hip, basically in the game today, and you make contact with the player, regardless of whether it's in his face or in his chest or in his back or in his arm, wherever it is, if you raise your foot that high, you're giving the referee a decision to make. Now, we'll come on to the referee a little bit later on because I don't think he had the best of games, although it didn't cost us the game, because I think he got the big decisions right. There were a lot of other little decisions which really wound me up. But the sending off, I mean, if your foot is that high, you're going to end up either, like, if there's nobody around and you win the ball, fine. But if you've got a player that's coming towards you, and you make contact with them, the ref really doesn't have too much of a choice because in the laws, it's serious foul play is endangering a player. To me, reading the words endangering a player, that having studs in someone's chest, that counts as that. But yeah, I can't really have too many complaints. I have seen people say, "Oh, well, he's gone down clutching his face, and that's why he's been sent off." There's an argument to that, but to me, there's two separate conversations. Like the first conversation is, has he kicked him in the face? No. Why has he gone down holding his face? That's, it's a piss take. It happens in football all the time. But the main argument for me is his foot is very high. He's made contact with the player. There's no intent to it. I mean, I think that's the big thing. Like if you watch it back, his eyes never leave the ball. And there is absolutely no intent whatsoever. But it doesn't matter if there's intent if you end up putting your studs in someone's chest.
So my immediate reaction was, well, that's a clear as day penalty. There's not even a point to discuss.
Red card.
Clear as day red card. Sorry. There's not even a discussion point. I was down here. A mate of mine came around to watch it, and he's a defender himself. He just said, you cannot do that. Like you just cannot do that and expect to not have consequences. The more and more that I then started rewatching it, the more I'm thinking, actually, Jacko is more stationary than the Wimbledon player. Not totally stationary in terms of he's always in the same spot, but he's not moving forward quite as much. He's lifted the leg up to try and win the ball. The Wimbledon player has effectively ran into Jacko's studs. That was the way I then started to look at it. I don't think in any way that I don't believe really that stopped it from being a red card, because I agree with you. He's gone studs up to win the ball, chest height. It's hit the player. That is going to be classed as serious foul play. I don't really think there's too much of an argument with that. But I do just feel bad for Jacko because there's obviously no malice in that. There's no intent to even be going against the man. His intent was that ball is there to be won. Oh no, hang on, I've got to stretch a little bit further. Oh shit, now he's coming to me.
Yeah,
that's obviously what's gone on there. Not a I'm going to kick the out of him to try and win this ball. So really do feel for Jacko, but I can't see it ever being overturned or anything like that. And again, I agree with you. You've given the referee a question to answer there. And could that have been seen as a yellow? Absolutely. But has it been seen as a red? Yes. Can we argue with it having been seen as a red? Personally, I don't think so. So yeah, it'll be a 3-match ban. There's really nothing that could have been done differently there apart from him not sticking his leg up to try and control the ball. Yeah. Just a real shame. And like I said, I don't blame Jacko too much for that because I know that it won't have been intended.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kate does say in the comments, the issue is that whether it's intentional or not, a foul is a foul. Too many fans are biased when it comes to happening to your team. And I agree with that. I think one of the first things that I said in our group chat actually was my first reaction when you see something like that and there's a contentious red card, I try and flip it the other way and think, if that had happened to James Collins last week against Reading and a man hadn't been sent off for it, we would likely still be talking about it now. You know, as a fan base, as you know, on the podcast, whatever, like in discussions down the pub, we would all be thinking, how the hell is that not a red card? And yeah, I always try and just flip it to say, if the shoe's on the other foot, how do I feel about it? And I think, yeah, to me, there's just no arguments. It's a red card. You can feel hard done by with it, and I can understand why, but it's just unfortunate.
It's an error, an error of judgment, an error of just physical positioning. Obviously, it's not intent. But exactly like Kate says, that doesn't really matter. We do have to take that away at a certain point with that, and say that, you know, at the end of the day, he has gone studs up, he has gone above the waist or on the waistline, and it's hit the Wimbledon player. There's not really much more of a debate, I think, that can be had there. The only other thing that obviously has been spoken about a lot, and you mentioned it as well, was okay, yes, but Mike Stevens went down holding his face. Yes, but there's two parts of that. There's a few parts of that. First of all, every single player in football does it, including all of our own. Let's not pretend otherwise. Also, if you're in pain, which obviously he went down, whether that was feigned pain or whether that was actual pain, he went down with pain. Sometimes the immediate reaction can actually just be to hold your face anyway, not necessarily to show the intent.
I'm not buying that.
Well, not necessarily to show the intent that it hit him in the face. And third of all, I don't really think, or I would like to think, that it wouldn't have changed the referee's decision anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy that second point there. If you go down, he is trying to con the referee. He is trying to get something that he maybe feels is trying to extend the decision, I guess. But there is maybe a question to be asked there about, did it sway the referee? I would hope it didn't. But when you consider the referee I think he was 24 years old yesterday. He's one of the youngest refs in the EFL. There is maybe a question about his experience. And, again, we'll come to his performance a little bit later on. But for me, I don't think that him going down clutching his face directly resulted in Jacko getting a red card. I think it's, at the end of it, like we've said, I mean, Oliver actually says it in the chat here. He says, problem I have with it is that it's never been given as a high foot foul if he doesn't make contact, but I do agree studs into the player is always going to get given. I mean, when you watch it back, I think Jacko misjudges it. I think he stretches a bit further than he would probably have thought he had to. Maybe if it's a case of taking another step a little bit earlier, he doesn't have to go that high. And I think he's overextended himself and caught the man. I mean, yeah, like we say, no intent to it, but unfortunately, it was a red card, and then it put us. It put us a little bit on the back foot. We kind of switched to a 3 at the back with Rico and Rob Street dropping back to essentially play wing back, and we kind of, well, I'm trying to think how it would compare to last season, because realistically we're sort of just missing someone up top, I guess, to sit alongside Collins. As part of that, would that have been?
Yeah, we effectively went into a 3-5-1 or a 3-3 or a
3-1.
Yeah. It was a weird one, and I think this is probably one of the biggest discussion points from the game, is kind of that 20 minutes between the red card and the penalty, because for me, and we spoke about it in the group chat at the time, I needed to see Tom Hamer come on earlier, because we lost all sense of shape, realistically, when the red card occurred. And of course, that's always going to happen. You're always going to be then chasing for better positioning. And obviously, the manager must have decided, okay, let's wait until we get to halftime, because it's a lot easier to make a tactical shift when you're at halftime and you can do it on the big whiteboard and you can show everybody exactly where they need to be and run through that individually as well as a team. You don't really get that same opportunity just stood on the touchline passing and playing Chinese whispers with all individual players. I get that. But like you say, we had the wingers effectively dropping back into wing-back positions. We had Jack Moylan, who was trying to let it be a little bit more offensive, but realistically was finding himself in a central midfield spot during that 20 minutes as well. And it just left James Collins isolated. And the problem with that is we would effectively boot the ball up on more than one occasion to James Collins chasing shadows, wearing out his energy, never really going to be able to get to the ball because he had about 5 Wimbledon players around him whenever that ball got booted up to him. And then even if he did get the ball, there wasn't really much opportunity to get a pass off to another offensive player. So in that moment, we were finding ourselves backed into a corner, because we were basically backing ourselves into the corner by allowing that pressure on as well. And of course, if we'd have held out till halftime, we're having a much different conversation here. People say that the red card changed the game. The red card did change the game, yes, but it was the next big moment in the 41st minute or whatever it was. That was the moment that changed the game more than anything else. Because again, if we'd have got to halftime, then we'd have made that change, and then we'd have come out in the second half in a little bit of similar positioning to what we did already, in the actual game. Then we're having a much different conversation here, and we may have been able to hold on to a 0-0 draw. But
before we go too far into that, I just want to highlight, shortly after the red card, there was a bit of a naughty challenge on McGrandles in the I think it was near the centre circle. It was a bit of a naughty challenge, but as we've said, Conor McGrandles went down holding his face when I don't think it was his face that was injured. So that's something, isn't it? But it's interesting you say about the tactical change and not changing the personnel. Skubala did mention this in his post-match press conference, or post-match interview rather, with Radio Lincolnshire. It's not the one that's on the YouTube channel. I think the club are doing 2 now. I think they've obviously Radio Lincolnshire have got their own ones that they put out, and then the club have got their one, which yesterday was John Helm interviewing. So I don't know if that's going to continue or if they are going to have the Radio Links ones on there or whatever's going on there. I don't know. But where was it? He says that there were no changes after the red card to keep the minutes in the tank for the players. So essentially, if you've got players that are prepped and ready to play for 90 minutes, if you can fit them into a tactical change with the players that you have on the pitch, I can see where he's coming from, in that it probably made some amount of sense to keep those players on the pitch and try and get to halftime and make the more enforced tactical changes that he needed to. But I would probably agree with you a little bit more, in that I think it would have been more beneficial to us to see Tom Hamer come in on a bit earlier make that shift and allowing Rob Street and Rico Hackett to stay quite advanced, because I think them dropping back, as you say, completely isolated James Collins. I think it seemed like Bayliss and McGrandles dropped really deep as well, just to really pack out the sort of defensive areas, to try and not concede. We started to maybe get a little bit of a foothold in at some point, but nowhere near as much as we did in that first sort of 10 minutes or so.
We killed any attacking impetus, and I think that's the thing.
Yes.
Although we found a structure that was working somewhat defensively for that 20-minute period, we couldn't get in out of our own half with much real threats. Even when we did get those breathers, it's not like, okay, now we're going to start pushing up the pitch. Now we're going to start having chances of our own and showing Wimbledon that, we're now having the intent that we're going to be the ones to actually take the lead against all odds here. Instead, it was more, okay, guys, yeah, you come at us. And the longer you do that, just like I was saying earlier on when we had those early chances, the longer that you start letting them hit the ball towards your net, sooner or later, one or two of them is going to go in, or somebody will have a bit of an error.
Or somebody puts a cross in and Sonny Bradley puts a silly sliding tackle in.
Look, in all fairness, his family must have been in the crowd. He must be waving.
Just waving at him, yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, there's no, again, much like the red card for me, there's no arguments about the penalty whatsoever. If that's the other end, we're screaming for it as well. The cross comes in, Bradley slides. I don't fully understand why he's got his hands up, but obviously his hands are up. The ball cannons off him. It's just a daft mistake, and it. I'm not going to sit here and chastise him because number one, he'd batter me, and number two, I think he's probably going to get a lot more credit over the season than issues like this. I mean, I thought he was superb last week, and when we saw him in pre-season as well, I thought he was really good against West Brom. But I think that we will see a lot more good games from Sonny Bradley than we will incidents like this. But it just goes to show, actually, Emily mentioned in the chat, she was praising Jacko's disciplinary record and he got a red card. And then we were saying that, Bradley looks really reliable with not too many mistakes in him. And then bang, there we go. It just felt a bit silly, a little bit sloppy. And much as it pains me to say it, I mean, Matty Stevens, it's a good penalty. Sends Wickens the wrong way, just rolls it into the corner. I did see somebody say that he gave Collins a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, I saw the comment on that, but I didn't see it. I didn't see anything like that myself.
If you watch it back as he runs past James Collins, I think he as soon as he scores, he makes a beeline to him and kind of as he walks past him makes a comment, and Collins gives him a little back, but. Yeah, maybe a bit of unexpected needle in the game. I don't know. It was, I
think realistically, you probably have something like that in most games, don't you? Because we're talking about competitive pros here who, at the end of the day, they want to go out and win the game. They want to go out and perform strongly for themselves. So a bit of back and forth on the pitch will happen in every single game. It's just whether or not it's clocked by the fans, I think, is normally when it starts boiling over. It was a good penalty. Slotted away nicely. It was a definite penalty. I think it's more, again, don't think that, at least I hope there wasn't any intent in it to try and block the ball with his hands. I think it's more clear cut than what the red card was. It's not even like it's one of those where we really had to sit there and go, if it was the other way, we'd be screaming for it. Because I think we kind of just have to hold our hands up like Sonny Bradley did, and just sort of say, fair enough. There's nothing we can sort of complain about there. I think the big kind of disappointment that came out of that though was that those two mistakes, and that they are mistakes, whether they're intentional or not or whatever, they are mistakes. Those two mistakes came from two of our most experienced pros.
Yep.
In the first half, and ultimately that did lead to costing us the game. With arguably a third mistake in the second half, but maybe that's a little bit harsh as well, which we'll get onto. But again, it's more just upsetting that those players that you want to rely on in those tough moments, those tough games away from home, unfortunately were the ones that did cause us to be 1-0 down at half-time.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose letting us down is a really, really harsh way of putting it. I mean, everybody makes mistakes, and Kate said in the chat, if our players never made mistakes, they wouldn't be in League One. It's something that we've said many, many times before.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I think we kind of. I don't think we necessarily held on till half time. I don't think there was much more of an attacking threat from Wimbledon, and we didn't necessarily have an attacking threat either. Like you say, it felt a little bit aimless, like just pumping balls down to Collins and kind of getting him to run after them when that's not his game. It just felt a little bit, okay, well, here we are, I guess. We'll try our best and see if something comes off it. But then that took us to half time, when I think we probably would have been quite glad to get in for the break, so we could maybe plan a bit of an attack for the second half. So anything else that you wanted to say on the first half, Charlie? Because we've hit half an hour, so it's about time for a break.
No, do you know what? The first half did then sort of fizzle out, didn't it? Like you say, we get into half time. And again, you go in with a lot of kind of, bit upset, bit of pessimism going into the second half, thinking it could be a long 45 minutes. But at the same time, there was, again, that kind of air of optimism of, okay, we make the changes. Who knows? We can get ourselves back into it. And we gave it a good go, obviously, which we'll discuss.
Yeah. So, right. If you are listening, we will see you in just a second, the other side of this advert. If you are watching on YouTube, then we will say hello and we'll speak to you in a few minutes. Right, there we go. That's the ad break plugged. So let's see who we've got. Steve is in again. He's first on the list. I think we went live at 8 o'clock on Wednesday and Steve was in at 7:03. That's dedication. I don't understand why, but cheers, Steve. Appreciate it. Andy's in as always, says evening from sunny Plymouth. Kate says evening both. Nice to catch one of these. I'm assuming that means live and not love for a change. I'm not massively concerned about yesterday. Never going to win all 46 games, and we always struggle against poor teams. It's a point we'll come to. I have faith that the recruitment will be done. Ian says, good evening. Our support was amazing yesterday. We were louder than the home support. To be fair, that's all I could hear on the comms. It was pretty impressive. Where are we? Oliver's in, says evening all. Gerard is in, says evening. Kate says that's a lovely Teams background Charlie has there. That's his actual place. That's he's living in a catalogue.
Living in a catalogue, right?
Yeah. There we go. Jacob says, good evening, guys, up the imps. How are we doing, Jacob? Hope you're well, mate. Richard says, evening, gentlemen, watching on Facebook for a change, or Fakebook, as he says. Emily's in, says, good evening. Kate says, was in MK for work a few weeks back. It was lovely for the 70s. I'm not going to slag it off too much, but I just didn't enjoy my time there for numerous reasons. Dom's in, she says, evening. Walter, sending off, yes. Definitely yes. Penalty, definitely yes. Collins received very little decent service and was a lone player until taken off. Reality is we need some quality signings pretty quickly. Let's touch on that in the second half, because I think there's an element of truth to that, for sure. But yeah, we'll kick on with that one. Who else have we got here? Phil Bennett says, evening men, the ref gave what he saw, so red card, but the cheating little womble definitely tried it on holding his face up the imps. Kate says Steve is a Stacey West ultra. There we go. Billy Halpin, imps away. I like it. That's a nice chant. I like that. That. That's good.
I think that was new yesterday, wasn't it? I think I've seen a few comments and such on social media.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's good. Kate says you camped in your local IKEA.
It's after hours. They have better Wi-Fi. Leave me alone.
I was going to say IKEA probably had better Wi-Fi than his old apartment. And Tom says that the
I didn't have Wi-Fi in the old apartment. That's why.
Tom says that
I've been doing the podcast on my personal hotspot for about 4 months. It's nice to actually have some Wi-Fi again.
Dear, and you don't need to use a VPN to look at boobies. There you go.
Actually, I do.
Oh.
Taiwan is a brilliant place, by the way. You should holiday there.
Oh dear, I've just given the game away there, haven't I? Anyway, look, flustered myself. Right. If we're about ready, we'll come back in just a second.
That's it. You have a sip of your water. You compose yourself after that. Don't get yourself too excited.
Heidi's just joined in. Says, "Evening, gents. Good to see you. Great to see Charlie's tan is developing."
Well, I'm not quite sure about that. Normally, it's just burn. But evening, Heidi.
It'll come back pink. You'll see. Right. Let's go back into it. In 3, 2, 1. And there we go. That is an advert for somebody this week. No idea who. I actually don't know who's done adverts for us for quite a while now. It's
what you mean? You don't listen to the podcast?
Well,
That's
I do.
Really
I just watch it back on YouTube during the day, and I've got premium, so I don't get ads. So it's all
right.
Well, to be fair, we don't monetize the pod anyway on YouTube, do we? So, but yeah. Okay, well, somebody let us know what the last thing you were sold through the podcast was, and it'll be it'll be an interesting one. So,
I think wasn't the last advert we knew about feminine hygiene products.
So yeah, somebody did say that they got an ad for a feminine hygiene product. Yeah. I don't know if that was a tailored one from Spotify or whatever, but certainly wasn't on mine. But let's jump into the second half. I mean, the big change I think we needed to make was Tom Hamer coming on. The question was who was going to go off. I was a little bit surprised to see Rob Street go off. I maybe thought we could potentially sacrifice one of the sixes, one of the midfielders, and kind of still try and play with that little bit of extra width and pace up top. It surprised me a little bit. What were your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I say I wanted it. It's obviously a little bit harsh. Expected it to be Jack Moylan. It seemed as though he was potentially carrying the knock going into halftime as well. Didn't seem to be all too comfortable, and he's the sort of player that you want to ensure that he's at full fitness if he's going to be on the pitch, rather than sort of limping around at all. So that, and then I also just felt like any sort of shape change was probably going to be better served with him coming off the pitch, and then effectively just going back to what we were doing but instead this time like a 4-2-3 effectively, and maybe removing just the number 10 out of that. That's probably the way that sort of what I would have done. But we're sat here talking about football managers. We're not actual football managers. As much as I may put a suit on if I'm playing in the final on the game, I'm not actually sat there in the touchline.
Would you say that the argument is possibly there that Moylan was maybe a little bit more of a versatile player to leave on the field than Rob Street, and that's why he did it? I do apologise. I've got motorbikes going around and all sorts outside. I think that could potentially have been the reason for that one. But yeah, I mean, either way, that's what happened. Street goes off. Hamer comes on, which immediately gives us back a threat from long throws. Obviously, a bit of an aerial presence as well. And it allows us to go back to that 4 at the back and sort of have a bit more of a full complement outside, upfield, I should say, rather than just having to essentially camp everybody back and rely on getting the ball up to Collins quite long. It was quite a quiet start again, I thought, to the second half. And then there was one moment which, when you see it and when you're in that moment, you watch it, you go, that's it. That's the chance. Yeah. That's the moment. I think it was McGrandles played a really nice ball to Tendai. I could be wrong on that one. But Tendai breaks and gets I think it basically was a 3-on-2. I think he had a defender to beat and then the keeper. You had Rico Hackett coming up his left-hand side. You had James Collins on his right. And yeah, I just thought if he gets this pass right, it's 1-1. And unfortunately, the pass that he made was to James Collins. It was a little bit soft. And full credit to Lewis, by the way. He sprinted like at least half the length of the pitch to make that challenge.
Hmm.
Got in the way of the pass and put it out for a corner, but that it felt to me like that was the moment when that challenge or that pass didn't get made, and you think, right, yeah, we're not getting anything from today.
Yeah, I think when you sort of watch it back, the pass to the left to Rico wasn't really on, because by the time that Tendai was still sort of going, Rico was probably more behind Tendai than anything else. So that wasn't really a pass that was on. So realistically, at that point, it's a 2v1 in terms of him and Collins. Now, if he'd have made that pass that little bit earlier, for me, that's the way that maybe it should have happened. Played that pass a little bit earlier. Yes, okay, you're giving Collins ever so slightly more to do, but you've got to trust that he can do that to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. Because he waited so long and then it was a softer pass, it did then give Lewis the opportunity to get back and make that sliding challenge. No denying, great defending, really well defended from all of the Wimbledon players there. I can't remember who it was actually that was the one man that was back at the time off the top of my head, but his positioning throughout it was actually really strong, because he was kind of able to sort of cut off what he knew was the main danger in terms of that pass to Collins, while stopping Tendai just going by himself. But again, should have done better, should have had a little bit stronger decision making. I think if that's Zayn Okoro, he's getting pelters for poor decision making and being naive.
Yep.
I'm not saying that means that Tendai should get pelters in any way, shape, or form, but I'm just saying that would kind of be the difference of perception. If that was a younger, inexperienced forward, you'd be sat there saying, well, that's poor, but their decision making is let them down. If they can get that into their game, they'll be a much better player, sort of thing. Like we used to say for Jovan 3 years ago. As well. But yeah, poor decision. We should have got a goal out of that, or at least a shot on target out of that, and we didn't. And yeah, I agree with you. It was at that point you sort of sit back and think, this could be a tough afternoon.
Yeah, no, I think that was it. Like, I mean, looking through the stats, don't worry, I'm not going to go as deep as Chris, because I don't think I can. Take that however you want to. But 2 shots for us compared to 16 for AFC Wimbledon. No shots on target for us in the entire game. 45% possession, 63% pass success rate, which I think is bordering on criminally low for us. It's something that we can normally rely on. But I think that kind of leads me to the point that I wanted to make around, yes, I thought we were poor yesterday, but I also think that there's got to be some credit given to AFC Wimbledon for how they managed the game. It's not... It wasn't the prettiest way of dealing with things, but they made it such a kind of stop-start game, like quite bitty, quite moment to moment, and it just broke up any flow that could have started to develop throughout the course of the game. We've seen it before at the bank. We've been that team before. But we know full well that we sometimes will have an issue breaking down smaller teams. Is a horrible way of saying it. I didn't mean that. Like, breaking down those teams that we think are going to be near the bottom of the table. They just defended really, really resolutely. I think they were solid in defense, and they were organized. I think it was everything that me and Chris spoke about on Wednesday. Well, everything that Chris spoke about on Wednesday, and I nodded politely. It was a really solid defensive performance from AFC Wimbledon, and I think we may have had a slightly different way of looking at it if we'd have managed to keep it 11v11, and if we'd have maybe managed to take the big chance. We would have been talking about a very, very different end to the second half here, because realistically, I don't think there's too much more to talk about in the second half from either perspective. I don't think much. It was just a scrappy game that kind of petered out a little bit. That went Well, there was one moment which we obviously need to talk about, which was their second goal. I will
We
read
don't
my
do we even
notes.
need to bother? Like,
I will read my notes. 2-0, really poor defending. How he's been allowed to get that shot off is beyond me.
well, there was another chance just before it. It was only sort of 2 or 3 minutes before the second goal, I think, or at least it felt like it was in quick succession. Where again it was just really sloppy at the back from us, and they'd managed to effectively bundle the ball through to get another shot off, and obviously that one didn't end up in the back of the net. But you start letting those sorts of opportunities come, you're going to concede, and that's exactly what happened 3 minutes later. And it was at that point, with that kind of first chance, that I started thinking, we're now under the cosh again. They're happy to come at us again. After there were also kind of little glimmers of hope for us to be able to try and, because we were trying to fight resolutely in the second half, especially those first 20, 25 minutes of the second half, to be able to get some chances, albeit nothing really clear cut apart from that Tendai one. But then it was, when they sort of started turning it around, they started having a couple of chances, and we really just didn't look anywhere near as strong as at the back as what we've kind of built as our foundation over the last couple of years. Yeah. That's then I started feeling a lot more downbeat and thinking, okay, this is now unfortunately going to go one way, not kind of the hope of the equaliser like I'd kind of been feeling for the 20 minutes before.
Yeah, and I think the problem for me was that you can start to feel when you know the game's gone away from you. And I think we started to get to that point probably around, Freddie Draper came on for James Collins, Ethan Hamilton came on for Jack Moylan, and Eric Rinn came on for Conor McGrandles. It felt not long after that I thought, okay, I mean, even these lads, they're not going to make too much of a difference. We'll come to Freddie actually, because we've got a question about him, which I'm hoping we'll be able to fit in. But yeah, I just thought the game had gotten away from us at that point, and it felt like we were on a hide into nothing. Their goal, though, I mean, what's the lad's name? Asimwe. He gets the ball with his back to goal, manages to take probably 2 or 3 touches on the edge of the 6-yard box, and then get a shot away. I don't know how he's given that amount of time. I mean, there's 3 or 4 players around him. I appreciate there's probably a bit of hesitance to make a challenge, given the fact that we've already conceded 1 penalty in the game. But it just felt like he was there forever. Finally, got a shot away, and it goes in with Rico Hackett sprinting back to try and clear it off the line. It just. Yeah, it kind of summed up the afternoon for me, in that you think, oh, of course. I don't know what's gone on today. I don't know what necessarily has gone wrong, but it didn't feel like we were ever really in it, and it just felt poor, if I'm honest. It really poor to give that opportunity away, and then obviously, for him to score as he did. So, yeah. What I don't think there's anything else to add to that one, is there, Charlie?
No, look, I very much echo your thoughts on that with the goal. I think there was one other chance that we've not mentioned as of yet that I think is worth mentioning, and that was Freddie Draper's. Well, I say Freddie Draper's chance. Freddie Draper going up for the ball with the goalkeeper.
Yeah, so I did.
I'm really lost at where the foul is there.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of use that one to springboard onto a little chat about the ref. But towards the end of the game, Draper came on, and he did make a bit of a nuisance of himself, which is what we know he can do. And we've had the chat off air, and we said it kind of feels that some of that area of his game feels a little bit like Matt Reed, in the way that he will make a nuisance of himself. He will get fouled all game, not get given anything, and then he makes one, breathes on a defender, and then he, gets a foul against him. But he went up. I don't even think he really went up for the challenge, did he? He was just there.
It was more the goalkeeper jumping over him.
Yeah, so he goes in for something with 2 of their defenders. The keeper comes in, takes out both of their defenders. The ball ends up with Freddie, plays it to Tendai, and he's got an open goal.
Yeah.
But before he can even get a shot off, the referee's blown his whistle for a foul against Freddie Draper, and I'm like, where's the foul there? How?
Because realistically, that's as much as obviously you can't ever guarantee it. That's a goal because Tendai had the ball. Yes, okay, there was a couple of defenders back, but I think we had another attacker in the picture as well at the time, or even a couple. And the goalkeeper wouldn't have got back into goal in time. So realistically, provided the right decision was then made, that's a goal. So that really frustrated me at the time because, again, wasn't a foul. And we could be talking about a totally different game, or at least we could be finding more silver linings in the game than what we currently have done so far today. So, yeah, annoyed at that one.
Yeah, and I mean, by that point, like I say, the game had well and truly gone by that stage. And I was just like, for God's sake, how is he? I don't understand some of the decisions that were made yesterday. That there was a lot of, like I say, Wimbledon did their job. They broke the game up. They slowed the pace down. I'd be interested to see the ball in play time stat for the yesterday, actually, because it probably felt like it'd be one where it was on the lower end. But it felt like they were trying everything to break it up as much as they could. I think the ref bought an awful lot yesterday as well. There was a lot of soft fouls given. But then sometimes there was stuff that wasn't given that was very clearly a foul. And I'm not just saying it was for us because it was on, it was across both teams. It was a bit of a strange performance. Like I said earlier, he's a 24-year-old referee. I believe it's his first season in the EFL. I could be wrong on that one.
It was his second game in the EFL from what commentary was saying yesterday. So I think he was in at Oldham, or MK Dons versus Oldham last week.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's a debut season, I guess, if you want to say that about a referee. But yeah, it just felt like it wasn't his best game yesterday. And the ironic thing is, he didn't cost us the game. It just made the game feel really disjointed. Because I like I say, I think he got the two big decisions of the game right. If you want to count that final decision against Freddie Draper as a big decision, then he obviously got that one wrong. But I mean, on the whole, 2-0 away from home, I can't get too down about it. So obviously it's the second game of the season, first away game of the season. At the end of the season, we'll look at it, and depending on where we are, we'll be, that could have been, we should have got 3-0, we should have got a point there. And there will be the discussion about every game's worth 3 points. It doesn't matter where it comes in the season. We know Skibala spoke about that towards the end of last season. But it is still relatively early. We do know that we still need a couple of signings. We still need that dedicated left back. As good as I thought Riley Towler was yesterday, I think he probably had a bit of a shaky game, but then that's probably the same as everybody. We still need to replace Ethan Arahan, and I think we'll need to replace Jovan or have that depth. I think probably 3, maybe 4, just to get the depth back up.
I'd say 3. I think
3 definitely.
3 definitely. 3. The 4th on deadline day if the opportunity presents itself. That's where I think we'd be looking at here. Realistically, I would probably want. Definitely 3. And we know the positions, don't we? We know where it is that we're looking for those players. The only thing I'll just kind of add on with what you're just saying there about the game, I think what's probably more disappointing as well is the fact that it was just so polar opposite to Reading.
Yes.
Because Reading, we were really composed. We had a really clear structure. We took our chances. We looked a real threat, and we were really resolute in defence as well. And it wasn't the sort of performance that you came away from thinking, oh my God, we're winning the league. This is amazing. We've played the best football that I've ever seen down at Centre Bank. But it was the sort of performance of, we do that regularly. We're going to be getting ourselves 3 points regularly,
Yeah.
But then I think the game against Wimbledon was, again, the exact polar opposite of that. We didn't look like the composed side. We looked like we were chasing the game, obviously, because we were at so many points of it for so long within the match. And it was just a little bit sloppier. There were the errors that crept in. And you're going to get those polar opposites throughout the season. I think it's just more disappointing that it happened one after each other.
Yeah. Let's put a bow on the game then. It's probably nice to do it with this comment, actually. Sue says, Wimbledon gaffer was very complimentary about our team and their stewards were the best I've seen at a ground. Professional, fun, and made the bad day feel less harsh. It's what you need, isn't it? You don't need somebody giving the fans stick for absolutely no reason, which we've seen plenty of in the past. So, right. We've probably got about 5-10 minutes left. So we have got a question from the Discord. One that I think maybe we can extend to Wednesday's podcast with a bit more.
We can touch on it anyway for now, can't we?
Yeah, we can touch on it now. But the question comes in from where was it? It was from Dridimp, who says, how do we get the best out of Freddie Draper? And I'll let you lead the line on this one, Charlie.
Yeah, my one on that is relatively straightforward. I'm not going to start talking how we change our tactics to suit him as a player or anything like that. And it's something that I've mentioned on the podcast before for Freddie. And it's probably me disagreeing with one or two of the comments that we've actually got in tonight. I just think get a run of games in him. If you start him 10 games in a row, I think you'll see the best of Freddie Draper, because when he's had those opportunities, albeit yes, out on loan, and we can talk about the quality of the league, of course, but I think when he's been able to solidify himself as that starting number 9, and be kind of on that pedestal, because realistically a starting striker that starts week in, week out, every single fan base puts them on that bit of a pedestal, don't they? I think if he can get himself there at Lincoln, that's when we'll see the best of him. But the problem is we're not going to sacrifice the team to get him there, because at the moment James Collins is a better number 9 than him. He's the more clinical. He's got more experience. He's the one that we want to start. So we're not going to drop James Collins to play Freddie Draper to get the best out of Freddie Draper. So he's in a really, really difficult position there. The only way that obviously you could do that is by going with a 2-striker formation. But again, we've got a system that we're now seemingly happy with. I don't think he's shown enough to make us change the system to suit him. Mm-hmm. I think he's got to get up to that level himself. And obviously at the moment, there's a player in there clearly, but we're not seeing it yet. And I do genuinely think it might just be a confidence thing of get him in front of goal, get him playing week in, week out, and we'll start to see it. But again, it's easier said than done to get to that point.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, the answer is I think he needs a strike partner. You need that kind of big man, little man strike partnership. I know it's kind of a dying art at this stage in football, but he plays well with a strike partner. I was actually going to make the point that Andy's just put in the chat here. He says, could Collins do the 10 role behind Freddie? I almost think you switch that round. I almost think you use Freddie's physicality as a number 10 to allow Collins.
I think because we're putting the likes of Moylan in there, we want more of a free roaming number 10, and then it's a question of does Freddie provide that kind of free roam versatility that can run for at the bare minimum 60 minutes? I'm not sure whether he does fulfill that. I think realistically, what we should actually do, turn him into a right winger, because that works for our youth strikers who are coming through and kind of on the verges. Turn him into a right winger, and this time next year, we're talking about a £2 million player.
There you go. That's it. Turn Freddie into a completely different footballer, and there we go. No, look, I think there is a discussion to be had about that sort of further on. I think, like you say, I personally still think there's a player in there. It's just how we managed to tease that out at this stage. But we shall move on and very, very briefly have a look at Tuesday's game. We are obviously away at Harrogate in the Carabao Cup. Is this the preliminary round or whatever they call it?
No, the preliminary round, there was only 4 teams in that, and they were last week.
Okay, yeah, because I knew it was kind of the same time frame. I didn't know if it was, but yeah. So yeah, away at Harrogate. Harrogate had a ridiculous scoreline yesterday, 3-3 at Grimsby. So we know that they can find the net, but we know that they're probably also a bit susceptible to that. There's guaranteed to be at least one change from Saturday, tomorrow on Tuesday night. What else do you see us doing in terms of a lineup on Tuesday night, Charlie? I mean, how many changes do you expect us to make?
I expect a few. It's the first Tuesday night game of the season. It's going to be our first double game week of the season. And yeah, I very much do expect a few changes. Have we got a game? Have we got a game the following Tuesday as well? Am I right in that? Because I think I saw something about somebody saying there was like 4 games in 10 or 11 days. I might be totally wrong, but yeah.
Yes, it's away at Bolton, isn't it?
Is that in the league?
Hang on. No, my bad. So we've got the 9th, which was yesterday, 12th, which is Harrogate, 16th, which is Plymouth, and Northampton away. Sorry, yeah. Northampton, I've got my dates mixed up.
Yeah. No, so I think we're going to have to rotate in this game, coming up on Tuesday, ensure that we have got some fresh legs. Again, obviously, the question is, what have we really got in terms of rotation? Wouldn't be, I think it's almost a dead cert that Tom Hamer starts.
Yeah.
Obviously, Freddie Draper, I expect to come in for Collins. Hamilton, I would expect to start with Eric Ring. The question mark, and it was one that we spoke about off air, is Zayn Okoro. I'm not quite sure whether he starts the game. I think if we're talking EFL Trophy game, I think it's a definite that he starts. Not quite sure if he starts this game, but I would certainly expect him to get a few more minutes, maybe 30 minutes. I'm coming on in the 60th, something like that. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see a goalkeeper change as well and see Zach Geacock come in. There's also the question mark over Lewis Montsma. We weren't too sure whether there's an injury in there. I was under the impression there was. I know you said that you'd heard that it wasn't an injury.
Yeah, apparently he said to somebody recently that he's fit. So I don't know whether that was before he picked up another knock or whatever, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he makes the bench. I think because obviously without Adam Jackson, I'm assuming suspension counts for that one.
It does, yeah. It's all English competitions from what
right. Okay, yeah. So we'll be without Jacko on Tuesday. My suspicion, or at least my hope, would be that Lewis makes the bench for that one, and then whether we dip into other areas of the club, whether it's maybe some academy lads coming in, sitting on the bench and getting that experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I wouldn't be too surprised if we did have a slightly weakened bench.
Is it the Carabao that you can have more players on the bench, or is that?
You can potentially have up to 9. Whether or not we do is obviously a different story. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. We'd have to check that one out. But yeah, it's a good point that Kate made in the comments there as well in regards to this obviously being the first round. Get through to the second round, we then get half of the Premier League teams in, all the Premier League teams that aren't in Europe, which like was mentioned does include Manchester United this year as a big potential away day in only the second round. So yeah, it's a game that we're going to want to rotate. We're going to want to ensure that we're getting minutes into as many different players as we can this early on in the season, because those first few games are also a bit of an extension of pre-season in terms of getting everybody up to full fitness, as much as they are obviously about getting the wins in there as well. So yeah, I think getting some minutes into some other guys that haven't played yet and haven't had a chance to get a start. But ultimately, I think we do want to get a win out of this as well. Coming off the back of Saturday's performance, I think it'll just be a nice little confidence builder going into the next home game as well. So hopefully we can just sort of turn that around and not be too depleted going into Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's a palate cleanser, isn't it, on Tuesday? I think coming off the back of what is basically it was a poor game. It was a poor game, a poor performance, and I don't think anyone's going to try and argue otherwise. Off the back of that, excuse me, hopefully get a decent performance and a decent result under our belts. It just steadies the ship. It just calms it down again. I think just drop the temperature a couple of notches, and everybody will hopefully be all right. going forward into Saturday's game. But I think that's probably a decent spot to wrap up the podcast for the week. I don't think there's anything else to plug. Obviously, the Trust's exhibition is still ongoing at the Cathedral. Get yourself down there. Emily popped down there the other day and she says it was actually really good. So I know I need to get myself over there at some point soon. Don't know if there's anything else. Obviously, Harrogate away Tuesday, and then next Saturday we're at home.
We are. Big game.
It is a big game, and annoyingly, I'm not going to be there. I made plans before the season started, and unfortunately, unlike Gary and Chris, their plans came off, and they've been able to do it without missing a game or missing a home game. And my plans have scuppered it, and I've now got to miss a home game, which I'm a little bit annoyed about, but it should be good. And yeah, we'll see you Wednesday. I'm not sure who's on Wednesday, but we will.
We'll sort it out.
Yeah, we'll figure out. We've got a rota. I should read. I don't. There we go.
To be fair, we've got a rota that within a week of the season we already ended up changing. So
yeah, that's very true. So,
yeah,
but yeah, look,
there'll be two of us, nevertheless.
Absolutely. So yeah, thank you for joining me, Charlie. Hopefully, next time we're on, we will be talking about a decent result for the Imps.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for letting me on.
Come on the podcast.
I'm used to doing previews now. I did one preview. That's it. My head's gone.
And thank you, everybody that's joined us live on YouTube, that's listening to us, downloaded us. Make sure you get yourself subscribed, get on the Patreon, get yourself in the Discord, have a good old chat with us in there. It's always good. So until next time, we'll see you next time. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.